Yeah. Which can use a little, well, a little. But yeah.
All right, let's bring the meeting to order. You ready, Carrie?
She needs a chair of wheels.
First order of business, quorum. We do have a quorum. And then approve the minutes of our last meeting. Have a motion to accept.
I'll move to accept as written.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
For Zoom meetings, if there are members on Zoom, you have to do roll call voting.
Oh, okay. So David, you said aye.
I did.
Lauren, aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Lauren and I put together a little bit of a statement or two, and
Alert from Google password required.
Jennifer?
At the last meeting of the building committee on October 23rd, we voted to ask the select board to hold a town meeting where we would present the guaranteed maximum price that we finally received and ask for funding at that new level. Whatever ended up being the GMP was what we were going to ask for, and we had that in the minutes. The next day, the day before the select board meeting, Steve Blatt and Mark Ouellette requested more time to work with H.E. Callahan to try to get a lower GMP. Lauren and I then met with the select board, and they agreed to wait to hear what we finally received as the price. Now, tonight, we must report that we received the GMP from H.E. Callahan, and they did not, in our opinion, get the maximum price low enough. Mark and Steve can go through the numbers in a minute. We think that the GMP is too high, and since it's the lowest we can get from them, we no longer see the value in using H.E. Callahan. They've done what they believe is the best pricing, and it's still too high. So Steve and Mark and Lauren and I think we need to find a way to get the cost down further. We need to get this project closer to the approved budget. So Lauren and I recommend that the town end its relationship with H.E. Callahan and then bring this committee detailed options for how to proceed and do so in the next 2 weeks. I'll open it up for discussion from the committee, and then we'll get some, or unless you want to get numbers first from Mark and Steve.
Yeah, that might be good.
Mark, do you have some numbers you can share with the committee, the GMP and how it compares to our budget and whatnot?
I do have a brief summary. I don't know if I can share my screen.
We
Speak a
turned
little
up.
louder.
He's good. I think it might be our.
Is that better?
No.
Is that the numbers?
Yep. We see it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'll start with the healthcare center. We've been diligently working with H.E. Callahan and the committee, primarily Lauren and Pete, and we obtained some budgetary numbers based on our 50% CD documents and then our 100% documents. We had an idea that bids were going to come in high. the preliminary numbers we received at the 50% were too high. One thing we heard from H.E. Callahan and the subs is that, in summary, the bidding market has not rebounded as well as hoped during COVID in the bidding market that we're in currently. The transporting and material supply, chain supply is woeful, and then labor for subcontractors is sparse. So what we definitely got back from them is H.E. Callahan's best number of things. We proposed several VE items as well as some alternates. We broke out a lot of work, a lot of scope rather, in our documents. Items that we felt were able to be delayed or deferred and be put back into the project if at some other time. For example, we identified phase 2 for the healthcare building. For the numbers that you see on the screen here, we identified the apartment overnight accommodations as a second phase. We provided a shell for building envelope, and then the interior, the actual fit up, the partitions, the plumbing fixtures, the finishes, that could all be added later. There was a work that was requested to do the restriping of the parking lot for angled parking. The parking lot could be restriped. That could be done at any given time without impacting the immediate function of the healthcare center. So we had several items in our bid documents to help break out scope and hopefully bring down cost. We've identified some value engineering items that were substantial, but yet we still have not gotten to budget. The budget for the healthcare building allocation was 2.5 million, let's call it. We received bids from H.E. Callahan and their subs coming in at just over $3 million. That's base bid for the apartment, and the alternates that I just spoke of, that's about $120,000. H.E. Callahan identified around $63,000 worth of value engineering items, and we came up with an additional $126,000 for a total of base bid around 2.8 million. So around $330,000 over the budget. If you include the apartment, we're $450,000 worth of monies over the budget. So we're at a crossroads. Without cutting major scope and items from the project, we're over budget. And again, we're experiencing a bad bidding situation, and in this market, it's tough. We're hearing it and seeing it everywhere. It's not just this project, unfortunately. So we also received bids on the Up Island Public Safety Garage, and I won't dive in the line by line item numbers here, but they were absurdly high. We had budgeted $432,000, and the bids came in at 806, that's base bid. With all the alternates we took out, and we took out some major components. The total was $1.2 million. Our previous bid, this is the second time we've bid this, with a different site design. Previous bid came in at $1.4 million. So it's disheartening in many levels. We've concurred, discussed with some of the chair folks, Lauren and Pete, primarily, about what to do about this. From a straight face test, we cannot endorse the public safety garage proceeding. That just would not be fiscally responsible
Password required.
for a garage. This, garage is ending up around $800 to $900 a square foot, which is just would not be fiscally responsible for us to recommend the town proceeding with this garage. And so one idea would be to delay the garage construction, put it on hold, reserve the monies and the budget amount for that project, and focus on the healthcare center. Still have a shortfall on the healthcare center. But there are ways we can try to lower it. I just did the quick math on this. We've come up with over 10% of the budget in value engineering items. I was reflecting on that. In a previous life, I worked for a firm that did some work for the Veterans Association, the VA, and they often have overages on their projects. And what they require, if a project, and they often go and they're placed on hold, sometimes indefinitely, sometimes within a year or two. To accommodate that, they require that you, before even signing a contract, that you value engineer out minimum of 10 to 15% of the project in case it gets bookshelved and price escalation of construction occurs. You can unmothball it and take that 10% out and proceed. So 10%, if you're value engineering 10% on a project, you're doing very well. We did so in this project, but we're fact of the matter is we're over the budgeted amount with the town. And so that's a brief overview. I give the microphone back to Pete, in which case we can discuss possible manners to proceed in which at this time. So I'll let Pete take the mic.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Lauren, did you want to say anything?
Yes, thank you, Mark. That was very well done, and I'm sure nobody's very excited about this result. I think I want to say a few things to reiterate what Pete said. One of them is, although we, in good faith, got together with H.E. Callahan and worked with them very, very deep dive into the numbers and where we can find value and value engineering and where we could get the budget down. I came away unsatisfied with their performance, and I think that at this point, it's reasonable and fair for me to say that they themselves in-house doing a lot of the value engineering. They were going to their contractors and asking their contractors if this is the number that they have to stick to. I'll give one example, and maybe Pete or Mark can correct me if I'm wrong, but all along we believe that you could find cost savings by working on the construction of the Up Island Public Safety Garage at the same time you worked on the health center building, that transferring equipment, using, equipment and transferring materials and even moving materials from, say, the Up Island Public Safety Garage and using some of that material for the health center, things such as that. Well, at the very end, after asking them repeatedly, can't we do something like that? And they finally said, well, the contractors, the subcontractors are bidding on these two things separately. And you can see the result in the very high costs of the Up Island Public Safety Garage. So I want to let everybody ask their questions and get answers, but I want to say two things. The direction that we're going in tonight is a two-part recommendation on our part, on Pete and my part. And one is that we do not continue our relationship with H.E. Callahan. We have not signed a contract, so we're not in default of a contract with them. That's one part. And the other part is that in the next 2 weeks, Steve Blatt and Mark and Pete and I think that there's some really reasonable, good alternatives that we can bring to the committee. But we would like time to get those laid out in a way that you can make good choices. So get the numbers much more solidly in place, get some, if we're going to make changes to the health center to cut costs, have designs to show you, and other alternatives. So we want to bring more detail. We don't want to try to come up with a decision about what alternative solution we should do now. We want to bring that back to you and let you make some choices based on some clear numbers and designs, etc. But we do feel, and I want to turn it back to Pete, and he can add to this. We do feel that tonight we want to have a decision about breaking a relationship with H.E. Callahan, because there's no sense in our mind. We have their guaranteed maximum price. It is too high. We haven't signed a contract with them, and I think it's time to say, for whatever reason, they've done the part that they could do the best they can, but it isn't sufficient for our purposes. And turn it back to Pete.
All right, thank you, Lauren. Any questions from the rest of the committee?
I guess my question is, will we have another construction manager then? Assuming that we go ahead with something, either one building or two buildings, will there be a construction manager or not?
I would assume so.
So the in principle is the construction manager, but is Callahan, did you feel, Callahan came up with a price that was too large, but did you feel their work was bad? Did you not get along with them? Are there other reasons to sever the relationship?
One of my desires for working with a construction manager was to get a collaboration between the architect, the construction manager, and us, so that when the plan was presented to them, they could look at it and say, well, yeah, that's nice, it's going to be expensive, here's some alternatives that because they're in the business of bidding on construction projects and building them. So they know best what they can do and how to make it more affordable. And I really haven't seen any of that except for at one meeting.
So there was a lack of collaboration.
Right. They're certainly willing to put out numbers and say this is what it is, and we'll try to get a little bit back for you from the subs, but it just hasn't really amounted to much.
I see. Okay, thank you.
I guess if I want to add something, I've spent about 20 years being a construction manager, and to learn of this large of variance at this late stage in the game would be very unusual and just unacceptable going forward. So I would agree that we shouldn't be working with them.
David?
Who was that?
That was David Sessions.
Oh, sorry, that was David Sessions. I'm sorry. Excuse me. I didn't mean.
Thank you, David. Any other questions from the board?
Do we have options for other CMs?
That I don't know. Well, I think that one of our options would be to see if any of the others that we had interviewed would be available and interested. And I guess beyond that, if nobody was, we'd put it out for, bid again.
Pete, let me add to that. I think you all recall that we did interview, we had an interview process, and I forget if it was 3 or 4 total CMs that we interviewed. And we actually gave points for all of those interviewees, all of those companies. And we could go first to our second runner-up, and we could take a look at who that was and ask them. It is not, I guess the question would be, are they available? And then the question would be, how soon could they get on the job and take a look at it? The good news, I guess, would be, and please correct me, Mark, if I'm wrong, we certainly have a lot of detail to give to them at this point. So a lot of basis for them to take a look at where we're at with the designs and where we are with costs, and see if they think that there's something that we could do next step. And like I said, that looking for another CM, which we can follow up on, that's a great suggestion. I think it was Linda or Dareth or both of you that mentioned that. I think that's a really good suggestion and a good first step that we can take. But I want to go back to the fact that we do have some backup plans that would be alternative solutions, and we would like to bring them to you, but we're not prepared to do that tonight. And actually, we should, in good form, I think we need to cancel our relationship with H.E. Callahan before we move to anything else. David, did you have a thought on what I just said?
I'm shaking my head, agreeing with you. Yes. First things first, separate yourself and then proceed with the project as it will become, because right now we don't have a project proceeding.
Over this price?
This is the overnight accommodation.
Over that much, but over that number? What's this number?
That is,
The total cost?
yeah.
So you subtract that from that?
Basically,
I don't understand I don't understand the chart. So the total would be, you add that to that, and we're at 3.5.
Yeah.
Correct?
I believe so.
That's what we have, isn't it?
No, not for that.
But altogether, isn't that what we have?
We're supposed to have, right?
But we have
Yeah,
other-
funds.
But we have other fees,
So this is not the total.
so we don't have enough to, that doesn't include the architectural and the, engineering and the.
I thought that was already covered, no? Thought that was not in this. The
It's not
architecture.
in here, but we have to bring it into the equation.
Okay, so this isn't really a total then. There's other figures that aren't here, you're saying?
Right, this is what we had budgeted.
Mm-hmm.
These are construction costs only.
So, I mean, you got the budgeted 2,488,320. Now, what is that? That's budgeted, but our total, because we only had 4 something for Up Island, right?
That plus the design fees
Okay,
equals the 3.5.
okay. Plus the design fees, so you're talking, design fees are $500,000?
No.
Well, that and that equals 3, we have 3.5, so.
Yeah.
Design fee for the.
I'm just trying to figure out the numbers, because there's something missing that I'm not seeing, because it's not on these charts. because I mean, these numbers, we could do it. So there's,
For the rehab of the health
Oh, yeah, we
center,
got that 100,000.
that was originally in
Health
a
center too.
budget too.
that was originally in, so.
So that, and that, plus the 100,000, plus the design fees.
I think what would be helpful is to clarify these figures in terms of what actually is this going to cost.
Yeah, because I mean, there's other fees that I'm not seeing. I mean,
Right.
we're missing $500,000 here.
Yeah.
That I'm not seeing. I don't understand where that is and how come it's not on a graph. I mean,
Mark, do you have any of that information?
you're muted.
You're muted. You're muted.
Sorry. I do have some preliminary budget numbers that do show our fees and whatnot, but I don't want to pull anything up that I really haven't had time to prepare, so.
Okay, I mean, I was just curious why there's $500,000 missing out of this. Is that the fees?
There are other costs for fees and fixtures and furnishings and
Permits.
the only, well, the thing we're trying to point out here is the construction budget overrun, which H.E. Callahan was responsible for. The rest is project costs, but this highlights the discrepancies in construction budget only.
Okay. I'm just missing some numbers, and when I do numbers in my head, it's like, okay, there's still $500,000, and I just don't see it where it is.
Understand.
Jay, this is Lauren. I think we can put those together and get those to you in the next day or two in an email from Mark and Steve and Pete and I. Because I see what you mean. We were just honing in on the construction costs, but you're asking for out of the 3.5 and actually 3.6 if we add in the additional fundraising amount that Linda got. Out of that, where are we with the budget, and how does this amount that we're talking about in terms of the healthcare GMP and the Up Island Public Safety Garage GMP plus the other expenses, where does that put us vis-a-vis those original budget numbers? And I'm sorry we didn't have that for you tonight. That's a mistake. So, and I mean, some of it is perhaps, I don't know, Mark, is there a percentage of the whole that ends up being worked in, or are some of these numbers that are not solid until you know the final price?
I didn't understand your question. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Well, let's just leave it at that. We need to get those numbers back to the committee members and do that in the next couple of days.
Yeah, our fee was fixed, so it's
So
it's
that should be an easy number to find then.
180 something.
So 180, so I mean, we're still missing
There's a
320.
the renovation fee,
I already figured that in.
okay, and the furnishings. And
I thought the furnishings weren't included in this. They did get
we
included.
got to have some in it, yeah.
Okay, I didn't know how much we were furnishing, because I thought we said that was gonna happen. We didn't need a lot of stuff because we were carrying stuff over. So we need like $100,000 worth of furnishings,
Well,
or?
Like they've got now 4 exam rooms we only had 1, so we got
But,
the table,
but I mean, we don't have to outfit them right now. So I mean, we still have 320 we're looking at that I'm not seeing where it's going.
Yep.
For how much furnishings.
Well, we'll put together
Yeah.
the whole.
Because I mean, 320 is pretty close to what we are over. I mean, it's gotta be.
That's what we were trying to do, but we're not there, and we're not satisfied. And let us get you those whole numbers, the missing pieces, so you can see. I mean, in a way, what you're pointing out, Jay, is that
It's
the work that we did get it down closer, but it's still too high.
Well, I mean, I'm afraid if we go to another contractor, I mean, it's the same out there. I mean, trying to get anybody to work everywhere. are we really gonna benefit? I mean, maybe Mark knows we're gonna, like, go to a different contractor, I'm not sure, but I mean, everything out there is just going up and up, and it's ridiculous, so I'm just, I'm trying to feel that we're really making the right decision by switching. Are we really gonna save?
Yeah. It's a good question, Jay, and I don't have a crystal ball, but from what the interaction that I did have with A.G. Callahan, which was pretty extensive, we tried to be as collaborative as could be and offered several options several times for them to be interactive and include and respond to our questions. And we just weren't seeing it. They were hard bidding with subcontractors and kind of letting the subcontractors drive the bus. And it's not what they were brought on for. They were brought on to offer value engineering ideas all through the process. They were brought on to solicit their opinion in terms of bouncing our design off them and getting a litmus test from them. Or we presented the budgets to them from day one, and we're working towards that. And never did they come to us and say, we feel that you're over budget, and they did not come forth with cost savings ideas on their own. It was ideas from their subs, and the subs had some good ideas, but not enough to get us to the goal. So I feel that, and I have worked with other construction managers that have been interactive, that have been collaborative, have brought their experience to the table, and coming forth with ideas. They could answer questions like on the fly. I could give a few examples, but I didn't get that sense with H.E. Callahan. So to answer your question, I do think the bidding market is unpredictable. That we know. But we do know that we can get a better collaborative effort and more input from other contractors. And I think now that, one thing that we experienced early on the 50% CD price check is that, there's hesitancy, given everybody is so limited with staff, that there's a hesitancy to really dive in and do full-blown cost estimates and material takeoffs and calculations, because everybody's so busy, and they didn't really put in a full bidding effort until the 100% CDs were done. And now that the 100% CDs are done, I think things will be bid hard in a more concise manner right away, and we don't get what's a good word, a delayed sharpening of the pencils, if you will. So I do think we'll get better bids. I think we'll get contractors that are more interested. So I think that's where we are.
Okay. I mean, you've worked with them before, you said.
I've worked with others. Well, with H.E. Callahan.
Yeah, you said you've dealt with before.
As a contractor.
Okay.
That was competitively bid, but not in a CM delivery method.
Okay. So, I mean, would you suggest we go back to the beginning and interview people again? I mean, was that your feeling? I mean, you're dealing with other CMs on other jobs, right? And
We
are
are.
you seeing this problem with all of them? Or
We're
most?
seeing price escalation and longer lead times for delivery of various materials, but that can be planned for. In terms of staff availability, we work with contractors that know their subs and their availability. I think what happened with H.E. Callahan is I think they went to some contractors that would potentially have island experience, but not necessarily subs that they're working with day to day. I think one thing we forecasted is that the island effect. You know, they customize their subs list, subs that have done work on the island, but I think in that same vein, having the experience, they potentially overinflated their bids. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I don't expect that phenomena would reoccur.
So you think there'll be a major price difference if we start over?
I think in conjunction with additional value engineering steps and ideas, I think we can get much closer. I don't know. I don't think I would use the word starting over. I think I like Lauren's idea. I think we can go to our interviewees that we already looked at, make some phone calls and see if they're available. Our hope would be to restart this process soon, not start off from ground zero again, re-interview folks.
From Google password required.
So we're going to,
And one of the things that kind of worked me up was their logistics, their line for logistics. You know, they seem to really overinflate all of their numbers for doing work on island. For instance, for lodging, they had $111,000 for lodging for the duration of the project. For the ferry, they had $91,000. For the island transporter, $267,000. For demurrage, which is just a fancy word for a truck driver sitting in his truck waiting for the boat, $80,000. And now we're adding $73,000 for feeding the ground to get the work and get the slab in. And so it's just, huh? Heating.
yeah, because the frost sets in, you
Yeah.
can't do the foundations. That's why it costs 30 to 50% more from December on, always the bill.
Yeah.
Always.
You wait until spring, and we're not.
So anyway, those are.
Could we go over the timing then, if, say Callahan, that relationship is severed, then you talked about another 2-week period where Steve Blatt and the committee, I guess, would look for new ideas.
Yep.
And then, so I don't see the next few weeks clearly in terms of when things happen.
Well, I'm not sure how quickly we could move forward.
It wouldn't be this year.
It
It's
probably,
definitely not this year.
probably
You
have to
only got a
wait
couple
for
months to go.
spring.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're doing spring, summer, or fall. I mean,
Yeah.
fall is the ideal. There's no doubt. I mean, this ferry drops, traffic drops off, and then that's the time to start. But if you're ready, October 1st would be a heck of a lot different than trying to go into mid-November, December. I mean, you'd have enough time. And I think you might find different prices too. But I mean, yeah, I mean, we hope the interest rate drops and,
So maybe deferring for 6 months is,
I don't know. I mean, it probably needs, everything goes up, what?
Probably inevitable right now.
Yeah, but what is it, 10%, 5% a year?
I don't know.
Mark, what's the average?
Can I jump in here?
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
Yeah, I do appreciate that, you know, it's easy to go the route that we can't get in the ground this winter, we can't get a response very soon. I think it looks a little bit more like this, and admittedly, maybe Jay and I are opposites, and he's a bit of the pessimist, and I'm a bit too much of the optimist. But it won't take long at all for us to contact those second and third and fourth choices for contract manager. That is not a time-consuming piece of work. Getting their decision, we have to send them what we have so far, and getting their decision would probably take more time, but reaching out to them just to see if they're available, that can happen very, very quickly. And bringing back to you other alternative choices to move forward quickly in this project, those things can happen too. So yes, we may not be able to hire someone, a new construction manager, who is willing to work over the winter, and so therefore we may not get building started this fall. But that's not out of the picture. That's not we haven't assumed that can't happen yet, and we're not just saying that to put a nice picture out there. We really believe that that's still a possibility, but there's the challenge of working with the frozen ground and everything else like that. So there's realities that are out of our control. So what we're asking for is to give us the time to make the, you know, find out where we are and see if we can bring back alternatives. And among the alternatives is exactly what Jay's saying, that the clock is turned back, we're going to have to push it back until the fall, you know, at least the spring, but that's bad timing for the busy island. But all of that, we'd like to have a little bit of time here to contact another CM and see what alternatives we can bring to you. I'm sorry that it takes 2 weeks, but I think that's about the reality of you know, getting a response from people and getting firm designs and solutions, because there might be more than one, there might be 3 or 4. So I'm not sure if I've clarified or muddied the water, but maybe if David Sessions, do you have a thought? You're nodding your head, and then
Well, I'm agreeing with what you said, Lauren. That's the process here. So obviously we need to move relatively quickly, and we have the program reasonably well defined. We need to do some value engineering and planning and in cost estimating, and try and find somebody of competence as quickly as we can is all. And keep the project on some sort of attack. It'll certainly have a bump in the road as we need to change plans and change perhaps the way we schedule it. But we should just keep finding a better construction manager and or contractor for the project.
Any other committee discussions? Anybody in the public that wants to say anything? Hearing none.
We have,
So I guess we're gonna need a motion. Take a motion to
see everybody at once because of the
Sever
screen
the-
sharing.
ties with H.E. Callahan. We recommend to the select board that they sever the ties with Callahan.
Small sliders. So we're severing ties because of the price and not the and also lack of cooperation.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, so it's not just the price.
Right.
I mean, they're more than willing to do the job.
Yeah.
There's the first trick when I was broke, getting somebody willing to do a job. It's just hard for me to accept, you know. But I mean, I haven't dealt with them. You've been meeting with them, and Mark's met with them. I mean, if they're just not willing to work, I mean, that's.
There was one meeting that we went to that they brought in their foreman that was gonna be out here, their job
She
superintendent.
came to the interview.
No, it was a guy.
Oh, because it was
Mark.
somebody was gonna,
Matt
whoever
LeBlanc.
they brought.
Yeah, Matt LeBlanc, and he had offered more in the hour that he was sitting with us than they did for 2 other meetings.
So
And,
he
and,
wasn't on the job yet, so.
Right. and if he hadn't come in, we never would have, gotten those suggestions from him. And time you're under construction, it's really too late for some of it.
Maybe they're just not interested. I mean, maybe that's part of it. I mean, I don't know either. I've been met with them. I don't know. It's a tough decision, but
It is.
I mean, what if the next price comes back higher? I mean, what do we do then?
When do you think about cutting the public safety garage?
I mean, I don't see a problem with that.
What, sorry, I didn't hear you.
I feel like it's the elephant in the room, but when, might you have to consider cutting the public safety garage? I just feel like I'm sitting here ready to explode.
No,
This
I mean,
price is
if
insane.
I mean, if we cut that, I mean, how much are we short?
Still.
Yeah,
I mean-
if I could jump in, that is one of, I think those alternatives are all out there, and that's what we want to go over and bring to you in the next couple of weeks. Exactly that. What are some solutions that will get us closer to the agreed upon price that we asked the town for? If we have to ask for more money, we just want to get it as close to that budget as we can. I heard the figure 10%, that it is reasonable that it's 10% more, but we aren't there. So that, I think what you're hearing from at least Pete and me, and maybe Mark too, is, we really have tried to work with H.E. Callahan. I don't know. I think it was you, Jay, who said, well, maybe they don't really want this project. Well, it did cross our minds after working with them for so long that maybe they're, not motivated. Maybe the island, what they think about is the cost of working on the island is scaring them off. We can't read their mind, but we know the net result is that it's been like pulling teeth. And that phrase has come up over and over again as the months proceeded. I could see Mark shaking his head, yes. So I'm not happy to be where we're at, I'll tell you that. But I think it's time to move on, and I don't see any plus in continuing working with them.
Has anybody brought this up to them? That we might move on if?
No.
No.
We told them to pause, don't do any more.
Now, do we owe them money?
That we're gonna find out.
I mean, that's a
They
good.
don't have a signed contract with us.
But Mark said something last time about you pay so many hours that they got into it.
We've
It'll
never
be a
seen
little
an
bit of
hourly
negotiation. Yeah, they've not shared with us an hourly.
Well, yeah, I'm just curious how much money we got into them. I mean, before we just say, okay, you're gone, do we have 10,000? Do we have 30,000?
No.
Okay, so it's guaranteed that we don't owe
I
more.
can't guarantee it, but
Well-
I would think that we might offer them, a quarter of Wendy's salary. I think she had like a $50,000 salary. We offered a quarter of that.
25.
Yeah, somewhere in there. Because there's still 9 months of the project to go. I mean, she's her salary carries her right through the whole project.
I mean, before I vote, I'd rather see other numbers. I mean, that's me though.
That's hard to do.
See other numbers? I mean, we're still missing,
Oh, you mean those numbers?
Yeah, I mean, I'm missing
Other people.
$500,000. And what do we owe them? I mean, well, we can't know that, I guess, that's kind of private or something, I mean, or it's just
Well,
part
it's
of the
a no,
job.
because they don't have a signed contract. It's just whatever we feel that I think it's what we feel we need to
Okay,
offer them.
yeah, I don't know how that works, I've never dealt with this, so,
Me either.
I mean, it is a shame that they don't wanna work with us, it seems like.
So would you sort of bring together what you think will happen in the next 2 weeks so that we can,
Well, there's a selectmen's
3 weeks.
meeting Wednesday night, is it? That we'd like to take a recommendation to them that we sever ties with Callahan. And then after that, we look to see if any of the other three, I don't want to include one, two,
One,
construction managers that we had interviewed are available, willing to do the job. If not, we would have to put it out to bid again, I think. Beyond that, I don't really know what I mean, there's so many things that are gonna be changing that it's hard to know what.
I mean, the building's not changing, and now we have a good set of prints.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's gonna go a lot faster.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one plus.
Jay, is what I'm hearing that you are not sure you want to move away from H.E. Callahan?
I don't know if it's the right move, but I mean, you've all worked with them more than I have and dealt with them. It just doesn't, I mean, we've gone this far and, I mean, we got a number that's not that far off from numbers nowadays, from what I've seen. But, I mean, we don't have the money, so we can't really vote on doing it because we'd still have to go to the town.
Right.
Right.
Because well, if we didn't do the Up Island building and we're still short whatever in between there, 200,000 maybe, or.
Well, let me offer something. I think it's possible if we completely knocked off the Up Island Public Safety Garage, but pulled out the amount of money that we had budgeted for it, that we're getting, closer. But it's still, when you add in the fees, we're still going to have to go back for, a significant amount more in the budget. And the longer we keep working with H.E. Callahan, the harder it's going to be to switch out of that relationship and not pay them, more and more a percentage of I forgot Wendy's salary, the CM's salary. I don't see the merit in keeping the relationship going. And I think we can make a lot of progress if we look at what we have now, with all the work we've done. We've got a lot of information, we're much further along, but what we need to do is move forward, and we can't move forward until we sever the relationship with H.E. Callahan. I just don't see, I do see that it's hard to leave them, but I feel like we must leave them if we're going to make progress. It doesn't add to our situation to keep them along. They're working with contractors that are just simply charging us too much.
One question, the breakouts for the ferry fare and the transport, that's not into the whatever it is for that Island building, the 1.2, it's just divided between that one and that one? The line you were looking at for transportation, is that half figured into this one and half
Some
figured
in both.
There's some in both?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just wondering.
The way The
really
one
change that.
frustrating thing to your question, Jay, is repeatedly, we made it clear that these projects were to be constructed simultaneously. And every time they would come back, they bid them, and had their subs bid them as if they were independent, and had broke down their numbers for all of the fee transport, materials and ferrying and island accommodations. They did separate it out per project,
So
but they
they
never
just-
listened to us in seeing what cost savings could be obtained by having them built simultaneous, i.e. not having to truck materials and fill off the mainland onto the island. And, they could easily use excavation materials from one site and use it to fill on another. We did have, some cutting to do on the public safety garage, and could use those materials and earth for fill, which we have on the backside of the building, on the backside of the slope, and so not having to bring those materials from the mainland it's a cost savings, and they never realized, they never acknowledged it, despite being asked several times. So I got a little long-winded there, but
Yeah, I was just questioning, but Pete showed me a sheet here too also that kind of explains the.
yeah, no, they broke it out per project.
Yeah, and they're done as, allowances. They may not be all spent, but we have to be
You
ready
have to
to
have
spend
enough money
it.
to cover
Yeah,
it.
Could I talk about the two buildings, and ask that in the discussions in the next 2 weeks, that the two buildings always are on the table, and that not one is pulled, particularly the up island garage. I've said this at the last meeting, but I feel strongly, particularly from the point of view of the private funders who understood it was this three-part.
well, I think everything's gonna be,
Yes,
considered.
and here's an idea, that the public safety garage is really important for this island. It's not a second or third choice. We don't have it.
Right.
And we need it. And this may sound crazy, but you might, if you have to stage it, you might consider doing the public safety garage first, and then the health center. It's something that we need, and if we keep deferring it, it's not going to happen. And I'd just like to make a case for it again.
It would be a great place to store things while they're working on the health center too.
And here, I agree with everything she just said.
Yeah, and just so you know, that's never been off the table in the minds of Pete or me or Steve or Mark.
Right.
And if we were to, one option might be that we have a CM that is working with the healthcare, but we find a contractor separately to do the work on the Up Island Public Safety Garage. The money would still remain, the budget money, the money that we had originally asked for the Up Island Public Safety Garage would not be assumed into the budget of the health center. That would remain dedicated to the Up Island Public Safety Garage. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about robbing from the public safety garage to pump up the amount of money we have for the Islesboro clinic. It's just how do we build them and when do we build them? And everybody is in agreement with you, Linda. I hope you can hear that loud and clear. There's not anyone who disagrees with you.
Say it again.
Yep.
And there's one thing that I did mention, the cost we were seeing for the garage it's just, there's no way we could, even with a straight face test, straight face say, that that makes sense. That cost was astronomical. And so we felt that it's incumbent on ourselves to let you know that we would not recommend proceeding with that. And that there's other alternatives that we could potentially consider. For instance, could we pour the foundations as part of the healthcare building project, and then from the ground up, there's, this building, the garage is not terribly complicated. It's stick framed, it's wood framed construction. Would it be possible to get materials donated or get, have the town build it on their own in some other capacity, get smaller contractors to build it that won't have as high of an overhead percentage, things like that. We haven't talked about that with the committee yet, but there's other ways that we could think outside the box here that we could still get that project built. It's just, we can't recommend for the cost that it came in at. Just like I said, $800 to $900 a square foot for a garage is it doesn't pass the straight face test, and I cannot recommend you proceed with that.
Okay. Anybody feel like making a motion to recommend to the select board that we sever ties with H.E. Callahan?
I would say that, using just those words.
Do we have a second? Gareth first, then Sonia with a second, Linda with a second. Any discussion? Jay?
I don't know.
I or no?
Well, I mean, I gotta trust you guys. I mean, you've dealt with it. I haven't been there, and if they're just not, I mean, I'll have to go, with that.
I do think that before going to the select board, the process and how much you intend to offer to pay and ought to be worked out, because they're gonna have the same question.
Yeah, good point.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. So we'll have a roll call. Jay? Want me to come back to you?
What, aye?
Yeah.
Aye.
All right, Linda?
Sorry. Aye.
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 Derek? Aye. David?
Aye.
Lauren?
We lost all.
Lauren?
Aye, sorry.
Okay. And Pete? Aye.
Turn it off.
Anything else we need to discuss? Hearing none, I motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Everybody said aye.
Aye.
So,
It's the renovation. It's selling, engineering fees, it's the furnishings.
That's it.
yeah, that's,
I think there were many problems.
well,
All right, thank you, everybody.
yeah, I mean, I'm just curious, because there's a little missing from the number, and I just can't see it.